Hi, I'm Everett Young, and I'm at home tonight. I have to be kind of quiet because my wife is sleeping in the next room, but I really wanted to share this with you. So you hear that to improve, you need to do more than just log hours on your guitar. You need to be doing what they call deliberate practice. That means that you should always be working on improving things that are not well within your ability. You've probably heard this before. You're not supposed to be just practicing the same old songs that you know so well. To improve, you need to be deliberately choosing things that challenge you. Well, I'm making this video to tell you that that does not mean that your practice needs to be grueling or hard. So when I think about deliberate practice and working on what I'm not good at, I think about, I think, my goodness, it's going to be hard, it's going to be grueling. I'm not going to enjoy that practice. But it doesn't need to be grueling or hard. This just means that you need to break your practice down. The phrases or the exercises you're doing, you need to break them down into small enough chunks and play them slowly enough. And that might be very, very slow, or even ridiculously slow, that you're simultaneously working on what challenges you, and you're having an enjoyable practice that's mainly filled with successful repetitions of the phrase, as opposed to being filled with frustrated attempts to do something that you're technically not yet capable of doing. So you don't want to have frustrating practices. So it might seem that there's a paradox here. I firmly do believe that if you are not enjoying your guitar every day, every single day, then you won't stick with it for long enough to get very far. But if you're only doing what you can already do, of course, you also won't progress much. So how can practices be enjoyable if they're filled with things that you aren't good at? And the secret is you break them down into those tiny chunks. And I'm just going to show you how I might practice something. And this idea occurred to me while I was working on the song "The Only Living Boy in New York." It's a cover I want to add to my set. It's by Simon and Garfunkel. You've probably heard it before. It goes, Tom, did you play right on time? I know heart'll go fine. And then it has this neat little descending phrase that used to be kind of technically challenging to me. Fly down to Mexico. Okay, so we want the guitar to play this nice little descending phrase. Okay, so that descending phrase, let's say that that's a little bit challenging for you to work that descending phrase into what you're doing. So, like, let's say you're trying to play this song and you find that that's just not going well. You're going like this. It sounds like this. Okay, I can't do it. Okay, well, the first thing you might try to do is slow it way down. And I mean, it's okay to be ridiculous. Like, start with the F chord here, this chord. So go. You could even go slower than that. But let's say that even that isn't going that well. Pick just two chords and transition between them. So maybe just the first two chords. And back to the first again. You don't even have to use a metronome. And so if that's reasonably easy for you, just say to yourself, okay, I'm going to do 20 repetitions of that. If I get tired, I'm going to stop and take a micro rest. Micro rest would be 60 to 90 seconds. So, one repetition. Two repetitions. And so on. I won't do the whole 10 or 20 for you, but just like that. And then maybe you do the next two chords, okay? Next two chords. And then the next two would be this would be a repetition. As you can see, I even missed that one there. Okay? And once you've put all that together, maybe it's not even till tomorrow or the next day that you even attempt to put the whole phrase back together, where you're going. And then that. So let it take days for this phrase to come together, and break your practice down into those tiny, tiny little chunks so that whatever it is you're doing, yes, you're actually working on something that's technically challenging for you, but you've broken it down into a little tiny chunk that by itself is not challenging enough to frustrate you. And that way, most of your repetitions throughout the entire time that you're practicing, whether it's 3 minutes or 5 minutes or an hour or 4 hours, most of the time you're having success with what you're doing. And then you're just little by little bumping that metronome up, or if you're not working with a metronome, just getting closer and closer to playing things at speed. You want your practices to be relaxing and enjoyable and meditative. You want to look forward to them. I used to get really frustrated when I was a lot younger practicing the piano. I grew up a piano player. I didn't practice very much. Well, practice wasn't very fun. Make sure that you break it down into small enough chunks that it's relaxing. And that's my tip for tonight. I hope I didn't wake anybody up. Good night.